Welcome to the Crafty Mini. Now, over the last few weeks, I've been doing a lot of the Moonstone, and in this one, I'm going to go back and do some grotesque horror stuff. I've not done it for a while, so I'm looking forward to it, but it is nice to have a break in between. Now, with this, I've basically went through my friend's board game collection and just said, look, I want something cool to paint, what have you got? And he's got the Cthulhu board game Death May Die. And that's what we're going to go for. So in this one, it's the Yellow King. The cultists, I'm not going to do an actual video on. They're pretty simple to paint. It's just a couple of layers of yellow, a wash, and so on. Now with this, clearly because I've not done one for a while, I haven't done a correct sacrifice to the elder gods. I lost the start of the footage. Now, so all I've done, so you can see on the miniature here, is yellow on the cloak, which is ochre yellow by Vallejo. And then a mixture of ochre yellow and a couple of drops of purple by Vallejo, and I've just popped that over all the tentacle bits and the stuff at the bottom of the miniature, and just slapped it on quite haphazardly. And then I'm going to go in now and do the actual rest of the paint job, which I've managed to save all the footage for. So this first step, so after I've blended those two colours in to get a base coat, I'm actually using some Citadel, I think it's Druki Hot Violet, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's one of their shade paints, and basically this is going to go on all the sort of deep recess areas, just to pick out a bit of detail and to hit some of those areas that I missed with the initial paint. Purple and yellow are really nice contrasting colours and go together. You won't see much of the purple by the end of this, but it's a nice step, and it adds a lot of depth to that first sort of sickly flesh tentacle and pustules that I've painted in. And I'm just going around here, slap hazard around the base of the miniature. So as you see here, we've clearly got three distinctive areas. So you've got the yellow of the cloak, that sort of purple, all the pustules around the base, and then the tentacles themselves. So what I'm doing now is that initial colour where I mix the yellow ochre in with a drop of purple. I'm just going to go ahead and go through now and neaten stuff up, because I noticed from the base coat, because of all the orientation of the tentacles and things, there were some bits that I've actually completely missed, and they're still the base grey plastic. So I'm just going to go through and neaten everything up here. Now I'm actually starting this step immediately after doing the purple wash. So like here where it gets to the base of the tentacles, it mixes with the wash slightly, and you get this nice sort of filter colour that blends from one to the other. And that's just a happy accident, and I'm going to keep that. But yeah, I want to try and differentiate from the colours of the tentacles to the pustules, because some of them look a bit older and they've got a lot more detail on each of the pieces, whereas towards the top, and there's a few little ones that are sprouting out of his shoulders and whatever, they're very smooth and look more like a younger tentacle almost. So they're going to get more of this colour on, and basically it's just a case of going around, neating everything up, getting those colours blocked in, and find all the areas that I did miss with the initial base coat, and then we'll go from there. And this next step equally as simple, so it's that yellow ochre again, and all I'm doing is putting this back all over the coat, the cloak of the miniature. One, just give it a bit more coverage, because obviously with a lighter paint, especially yellows, the coverage is notoriously bad. And then secondly, again, just to neaten everything up, because there's been areas where I went over with the tentacle colour or that purple wash on the bottom. And just getting everything neated up, and then basically my three core colours are then they're basically all in alignment with each other, and they're all blocked in. And because I'm using that yellow ochre as a base for the tentacles and all the bits on the bottom of the base, it marries in with the yellow on the cloak as well. And then it's just the fact that it's had a bit of purple, obviously saturates it a bit and makes it a bit warmer, and then obviously the areas that have had the purple wash then marries in with that as well. So hopefully it should feel at the end, spoilers, I like it in the end. I think it works quite nice, but it should hopefully start to look like it's all beginning to marry, because it's got that one colour running all the way through. Right, so we're at a point now, everything is fully coated in the initial colours they should be, obviously excluding the base, and the yellow in particular has got the right coverage that I want. So this next step is, you saw in a video you might have seen a couple of weeks ago, the HeroQuest miniature. So it's this sledge sauce. That's what I'm calling it. He calls it marine juice, but basically from Sonic Sledgehammer Studios, and this is going to go all over. Now, the reason I use this particular wash and why it's slowly becoming one of my favourites, it's especially for light colours like yellow. So when it goes on, it looks really dark. Like you're going to get those sort of traditional coffee stains and things that you get with, you know, normal washes, especially like here. You see where it's going on thick. It goes into all the recesses, but I think it's because of the whole pot of lamy medium that's in it. It allows the wash to flow a lot quicker and get there. Now you have to, one thing I will note is if you do a heavy application of this, while you're waiting for it to dry, let the miniature sit on a bit of paper towel, because it can pool at the bottom of the miniature, and sometimes you have a bit of excess runoff that you've got to get rid of. But the wash itself, I've noticed it runs a lot smoother, which as I say, I'm assuming is the medium. Gets into all the little folds and all the nooks and crannies that we want to help with the definition, but it's not too strong, and it doesn't overly stain stuff. And especially when you're working with a colour like yellow, to build those layers back up, those highlighting layers, if you're going to do a wash step, can be a bit of pain in the backside. So this stuff I would recommend. I mentioned it in the previous video and gave a link to his channel, so please do go and check him out. But it is just Army Painter Strong Tone, a bottle of Lamy Medium, and a bottle of Ryken Flesh Shade, all mixed together in a bottle, and that's it. It's really, really simple, and this stuff just works absolute wonders. As I say, doesn't stain too much, which I like. Now at this point, there is with the wash. Now the wash is still technically doing its job. It's still a little bit wet in some areas, but you can see it's added a lot of definition to the actual piece, especially around the folds of that yellow fabric, which is obviously that's the main piece that I want to stick out. And where it is, especially down the bottom of the cloak, where it's going to be next to all these tentacles and weird bits of flesh, I'm going to leave them more stained. But basically it's a case of going through and starting to highlight. So my initial highlight, what I do is I've got the yellow ochre from before, because that had full opacity before we put the wash in. I'm actually going to not re-highlight with that. I've got 2 parts yellow ochre to 1 part lemon yellow from Vallejo. Now lemon yellow is, to paint it by itself is a terrible paint. You need to put like a really heavy white base coat, but I found for highlighting yellow it's really nice. It adds this very it's hard to explain, almost like a crispness to it, especially on the edges of things. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking the paint and I'm just going around certain key areas just to pick it out as we go around the miniature. So certain folds, places where I want the eye to draw a little bit more, because that lemon yellow makes it so bright. So especially around like the cuffs of the hand, the rim of the actual hood of his cloak, because I want the sort of focal point to be that weird maw that he's got in the middle of his head. But yeah, just going over key areas of the fold, especially around just anything facing up, and picking out the odd little bit here and there. And then we'll do another highlight after this, and that'll be the final one. But this is, hopefully it's showing up on camera, but the yellow's really starting to pop now where I'm adding this highlight, and it's my go-to if I'm doing a yellow as like the key theme. I like to have a big contrast from the deepest areas to the highest, and you'll see on the next step how that works. And this is the last highlighting layer of the yellow. So this is 2 to 2 with the yellow ochre and the lemon yellow. So this is really bright, and I'm just picking out key areas. So the main sort of biggest piece is going to be obviously his hood, but you'll hopefully see as I'm going around the edges and things, I'm just picking out areas, putting a few dots on here and there, just to accentuate that yellow a little bit more and make it a little bit brighter. And then like long edges like that on his sleeve there, little things. And it's just, I find it's a really nice way to make that yellow pop, because the lemon yellow from Vallejo, it's almost like an electric yellow, I suppose is the best way to put it, or like a fluorescent, almost like a high vis yellow. But it's, and on its own it's not particularly good, but when you work it in with the base yellow, it really adds a little bit of punch. And as I say, just go around now and just highlighting those key areas of the actual robe. Right, so this bit with the yellow now finished, I've gone back in, I've got some of that initial that sort of tentacle mix that I did. I've added a little bit extra of the yellow ochre just to brighten it a touch more, and I'm going around now, and you'll see this brush. This is actually an old makeup brush. So in the UK, we've got Home Bargains. There'll be something similar in other countries, and it's basically you get a set of makeup brushes. Now this is a really small one, but these brushes, because the bristles are so soft, they're really good for dry brushing and over painting, and that's basically what I'm doing here. Some areas I'm dry brushing where there's a lot of detail, and then the softer tentacles, as mentioned earlier, the younger ones, they're just getting like an overbrush. And just going through, picking everything out, really simple, just brightening it, giving it a punch a little bit more because of the next few steps we're going to do with it. And it's a really nice effect, and these brushes are brilliant for it. You just got to make sure you clean them out properly, and when you have cleaned them, unfortunately they take longer to dry than a standard dry brush, but they're great for this sort of technique and this application. But go around picking out all those tentacles. You can see there, as I went through, a little bit heavy, I've just used my finger just to brush it off slightly, but picking out all those raised edges, and there's little bits of area that are going to make this really pop now. Right, so now what I'm actually doing is going in and highlighting. Now with this, I'm using the basic skin tone, is the name of it, by Vallejo, and it's a very, very bright pinky Caucasian sort of colour. This is a lot brighter than I'd normally do for any sort of skin tone anyway. Now the reason I'm doing this is because of the next step that's coming up, and the technical paint I'm using works well on brighter colours. So this might look as I'm going through a bit more extreme, but that's because I want that variation in sort of tones when we come to the next one. So just going around, picking out a few key edges, things like the tentacles where there's a bend in the tentacle that's facing upwards. That's going to get a bit more of this, just like with using the side of my brush, just because it'll pick up the light more, and going around and just picking out these areas ready for the next step, which is the fun one. And it's why I picked this miniature to paint out of my friend's collection. Right, so this is the Army Painter True Blood effects paint. I love this stuff. So it's got like anyone who has used it before will know it's like a gluey consistency, almost like real blood. The way it goes on, like it doesn't cover properly unless you put it on really thick and heavy. And what I'm doing here is, so some of the brighter areas, like these particular pustules around, are going to get almost like an even coat, and you can see it goes on really blotchy. And it sort of tints the actual colour, which is why I wanted that brighter base coat. And then after those, we're going to go around some of the base areas, we're going to put it in really thick, and it sort of darkens up. And part of the medium that they use in the actual in the paint itself with the pigments, it leaves a really glossy finish, and obviously which is what you want for natural wet blood. Now they do another one called dry blood, similar sort of thing, but it's got these little sort of bits in it. I'm not sure what the material is, and it makes it look a bit more like coagulated blood. Both of them are really nice effects paints, and two that I always have in supply, because they're just fun to use, especially for something like this that's really grotesque, or if you want to add a bit of blood to like what would it be, like like a melee weapon, or if you want to, what you can do is water this down ever so slightly and flick it on to do like really cool blood spatter effects on your miniature as well. But yeah, cracking paint, as I say, and two that I keep in my arsenal, ready for when I'm doing something grotesque like this. But you can see how it'll just tint, and then the heavier applicated areas like are really thick, like they're oozing this blood out, and it's a really nice finish in the end. Right, so he's nearly done, and this is just the last little bit of application. Now for a miniature like this, where we've got almost like these two worlds crossing over, you've got this material, this man-made material, and then this unnatural monster that's coming through. I like to do it's what you see on the Grimdark Compendium, texture variation they call it, but basically I use different varnishes for different things. So on the yellow in particular, which you see me doing now, I use Green Stuff Worlds. It's called Max Matte. So it's an ultra matte varnish, It's sort of my go-to for fabrics and things, and it really dulls them down, and when it's dry it gives them this really nice like heavy matte finish, which in comparison to where obviously that True Blood effects paint is on, that's highly gloss, so it should break it up the miniature a bit more. And then obviously things like especially in the folds where the wash went in, they tend, because it's got Lamia medium, it tends to have more of a glossy finish, so I want to dumb all that down as well. And in the end it gives it a really nice sort of texture variation, as they call it. It's a really nice finish in the end. I absolutely love this stuff. It's really good for bases as well when you're varnishing those, which I use on this one, just to give them like a proper hard coat that won't it doesn't seem to chip or anything like that. I've never had an issue with this varnish, and I love it. It's a really nice way of just giving a bit of difference to the miniature. But yeah, go around, give them a varnish, paint the base grey, and that's it. Right, so this is the finished product. We'll do some close-up images in a bit as well. I love this. King in Yellow is one of my favourite characters from the Cthulhu mythos, old Hasta, and it's been a real joy going back and painting something grotesque again. Nice change of pace from the more whimsical, sort of Tim Burton-esque side of Moonstone. I'm basically going to be working through my friend's collection of this Cthulhu Death May Die game, so expect to see more on the channel. If there's any particular characters from the game, those who've played it or seen it, that you'd like me to do next, please let me know, because I'm pretty sure he's got everything, because he backed it when it was originally came out, so I'll work on those next. But yeah, absolute fun to go back to the grow stuff. We've got more coming up in the channel. Also, the podcast me and Welsh Munch and Board Gamer have been doing, we've got the first 5 episodes fully recorded and edited now, so I might start putting those up a little bit earlier than planned. There's a few little things I want to go through with Welsh first. But again, if you've got any questions or anything you'd like us to talk about within the hobby sphere, do let us know on our respective channels, and it's things we will address when we do our recordings for it. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.